Hello, in this lesson video, we are going to look at some parallels between Bronfenbrenner's human ecology systems and the concept of your Miskasowin. So I want to dive right into, again, this should be review. Um, this was a concept that was discussed in your first semester, should have been discussed in your Foundations of ECE course. If you are having trouble remembering the concept of Miskasowin, we're going to look at it again because this is an important concept that we are going to continue to look at and reflect upon and build upon throughout your 4 semesters here in the program. So your Miskasowin is the concept. It's an Ojibwe concept from First Nations community, and it is the finding of one's sense of origin and belonging. So finding one's self or finding one's center, and some refer to it as their words, their intuition, and their values. So our Miskasowin is something that we build upon, and it's forever changing because it is based on our experiences, our values, and our beliefs. We know that these things change over time based on the experiences that we have and those we meet and interact with. So, what we want to remember and remind ourselves before we continue on throughout while looking at the comparison is that our own Miskasowin impacts how we view and experience the world and those in it. So this is important for us to think about specifically as our role as an early childhood educator. Because we work with children and we work with families, it's important we understand our own Miskasowin and how it can affect the ways in which we respond, interact, and provide experiences to the children and families we work with. Because our beliefs, ultimately our values, our self-identity, the way that we belong and exist in the world has an impact on those the people that we interact with. Specifically, we have a huge impact on children as we are one of their primary caregivers for certain periods of time. And although it may be for short periods of time, we want to remember that our impact can and is lifelong lasting. So when we're looking at Bronfenbrenner and the parallels to Miskasowin, so in the lesson video on Bronfenbrenner, you will next week touch upon these systems within Bronfenbrenner's human ecology theory. So he discusses the micro, meso, exo, and macro systems that all surround and impact children. So, or individuals. So if we're looking at a person, their macro systems, mesosystems, exosystems, and then the macro systems within a child's environments are going to have an impact on them. So next week, we're going to break down those systems and talk more in depth on who's involved in those systems. What do the environments look like? You can reflect on them based on the information here in the figure 1.1. So it's important that we think about the Bronfenbrenner's theory and that he discusses how all the different environments, whether a child is directly interacting with the environment or they're indirectly impacted by this environment. So if we're thinking of microsystems, these systems are more of those systems that a child directly interacts with, right? Their family, their childcare centers, their schools, as opposed to a macro system that is more outside institutions of culture, religious beliefs, political and economic influences. So these also include those systems in between, the meso and exosystems. And these are more about how some of the systems interact. And it's important that we realize that all of these environments, all of these systems and interactions influence a child. and influence who a child will become, their beliefs, how they experience the world around them. So when we look at Bronfenbrenner's human ecology system, it does have parallels and overlaps with the Miskasowin concept. So Miskasowin, again, right? It's how we find a sense of belonging in the world, how we identify as a person, our beliefs, our values. And why we're comparing the two is that all of the beliefs that we have and who we are as an individual and finding our Miskasowin ultimately has an impact on those around us. Specifically in this situation, and what we're looking at in this course is our influence on children and the families. So, this quote here, we all belong to two worlds. One world exists outside of your existence, and another world that exists only because you exist. Find your Miskasowin and share that with both worlds. So this really does describe Miskasowin and the extent of our impact that we have on those we work with. So we exist, and there is a world that exists outside of us, right? So those are the people that we interact with, the environments, the experiences we maybe have or others are having. That's the world that exists outside of us. But then we have, based on who we are and our own experiences and our beliefs and how we view and perceive the world and our perspective of the world, ultimately is another world in itself. And that experience is unique to us and us only. So the way we see the world, the way we experience it, our own views and philosophies, that is unique to us. And what we want to remember is how big of an impact that has on the children and families that we will work with. So there is an overlap between the two in how we're looking at the environments around us and looking at us as an individual and how we have an impact on the children that we work with. So Bronfenbrenner's model is the idea that every person develops within a microsystem, right? So we have family, community, inside a mesosystem, which is the social settings. So we all have these day-to-day interactions with people and community that is more of a regular occurrence. And then we also have these social settings outside of us that are going to also influence us as well. So this is Bronfenbrenner's model. Basically, how all the different environments interact with one another and how they influence an individual, in this case, a child. Then we can look at Miskasowin, this finding one's origin, this sense of belonging, right? And the idea of the circle of life teachings. So basically, it's this circular image, if you will, if you're more of a visual person. This idea that we each are born, we each have these interactions, we have these experiences, we build beliefs and views based on our experiences, and those in turn have an effect on others around us, right? So, if we're having our own children, our Miskasowin is going to impact those children who then will interact with other children and interact with other individuals and will someday have possibly children of their own, which their Miskasowin that was impacted by their parents will have an impact on their children. So it's this circle of life teaching. So there is this parallel, and the parallel can be drawn in relation to the First Nations, and that is way of knowing, or the Miskasowin, and to Bronfenbrenner's human ecology model of development. So his model refers to the total situation that surrounds and interacts with an individual's thoughts, feelings, actions, and shapes development and learning. So this idea that, right, all of the environments, all of the interactions from the micro level all the way up to the macro level have an impact on children's development and learning. His model includes those systems, those micro, meso, exo, macro systems that all impact an individual. This would include family, community, society within which an individual lives. This can be seen as being the same as that circle of life teaching, wherein the social context and environment as considered in child development. So basically, again, the overlap is that our Miskasowin has an impact on those we are going to work with and the children that we are going to be um, spending time with and interacting with. And it's important that we understand Bronfenbrenner's human ecology model as well as our understanding our Miskasowin because of the level of impact that these theories and concepts have on the children that we will work with, right? The more that we understand different theories, right, we're able to have more of an open perspective, which then will reflect our own Miskasowin. So I want you to just consider those parallels. And as we move through and continue to talk about different concepts throughout the course, again, we will reflect back on your Miskasowin. You'll be continuously reflecting on it in other courses throughout the 4 semesters. So it is important that you have an understanding of this concept. And nicely, here in this lesson, Bronfenbrenner's human ecology systems was a nice parallel to that. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'll be chatting with you again soon.